All right, welcome to the Sister Chain Talk here. Dominic, you can have a seat. And I'm going to bring up Douglas Horn. Douglas Horn is the architect of Telos and another sister chain, and he'll be in the discussion here. So welcome, gentlemen. All right, go ahead and bring it in. Let's get the seats filled up because you guys have two of the great minds in EOS here that are doing big things that you want to know about. So I'll hand off a mic to one of you guys here. All right, so the first thing we'll talk about is, Dominic, why don't you answer this question and explain what a sister chain is and how that's either could be competitive to the EOS blockchain or work together with the EOS blockchain, and just an overview of what sister chains are and what that ecosystem looks like.
Yeah, so sister chain, it's not quite a fork because it doesn't have a shared database history, but we're effectively taking the same core software, launching it with its own set of block producers. You're going to typically have your own, core token. You're not going to use the EOS token as your fundamental unit on the chain. And you can add your own smart contracts. Obviously, you can have governance. And you can basically make any changes you want. The difference between that and a side chain is a side chain's typically, it's only of a sister chain or mainnet, for example. It's not going to have its own unique set of block producers. It doesn't have its own unique core token. It can have different governance. It can have some different rules, and they're pretty flexible. But depending on your use case, sister chains, side chains, we have a lot of options in EOS. As to whether or not it's competitive with mainnet, I don't think any sister chain should really be seen as competitive, especially considering that we know that Block One's working on IBC, Worbli's working on IBC. I know Telos is adding some technical contributions to IBC. We should be getting an intercommunication kind of web of blockchains eventually. So we always talk of it as like EOS universe.
Hey, and what are you up to? Why don't you go ahead and add what Telos is doing for as a sister chain, how they're interacting with the ecosystem, and how they compare to EOS?
Sure, thank you. So along the lines of what Dom said, it's not highly competitive. I think there is that kind of friendly competition where everyone has to work on a little harder to be better, and everyone in the ecosystem benefits through that, right? There's not a lot of industries in the world that we see where there's a single entity that controls everything that actually lasts long, right? There are negatives there, so I think that what competition there is actually very positive for the ecosystem altogether. The things that Telos is working on is we've made changes in 3 areas. We've made changes in tokenomics by flattening out and making sort of the middle class token owners have a more meaningful vote. We've made changes in technical areas, so we have some resiliency additions around keep making sure that the standby block producers are actually technically able to prove their readiness to always support the network, and also to remove any active block producers who are not fulfilling their needs there. So that's there's some resiliency differences there, and then we have the largest area is the governance, right? So we've added areas that are still trying to be implemented in the EOS chain. And I don't know exactly how they'll be implemented in Worbli, but in Telos we will have the worker proposal system right off the bat. We will so that people can generate new proposals for ongoing development. We have the ratify and amend so that we can ratify our governance documents and then amend them clause by clause as people choose to. And then we have arbitration, which is done by a very large smart contract, and the arbitrators themselves are elected, which is a little different than the ECAF situation that Tokina was discussing. Those are the big things. We will employ things like we've voted to implement REX as soon as it is technically available. So that's a step that we don't have to vote on later on. And we have brought in now we will bring in IBC. We brought in IPFS, so it's going to be very soon after launch an additional resource that dApp developers can exploit. Little, a lot of little improvements along the way that, by the way, are all open source and offered back to any other chain in the EOSIO verse, as we say.
Do you see some of those changes that you made being possibly adopted by the EOS blockchain if they work out? Is that
yeah, I hope so.
Chains?
I mean, look, we've received a lot. We are very large beneficiaries of all the work that has happened from EOS, EOSIO, and Block One, and we want to be good citizens and return those. I think there's something like inverse weighted voting is a really great example of something that could be adopted at any time and it'd be very beneficial. And what that is, just briefly, is to encourage people we're trying to encourage people to vote for a lot of block producers. One of the things we implemented is a way of voting where if you only vote for 1 or 2 or 3, your vote's not worth very much. If you vote for all 27, 28, 29, 30 block producers, you get the full weight of your vote. That's to prevent people who are either not very well haven't educated themselves very well, or are trying to game the system. It reduces their capacity to do so. That I think would actually be we've done a model where we looked at how things would change on EOS right now if that were implemented, and it would move the needle.
Well, one of the things I think is interesting about the sister chains as they pop up is that they can move a little bit more quickly, and then the mainnet can take parts that work and then add them to the mainnet. So it adds a lot of resilience, anti-fragility to the mainnet, which I think is one of my favorite things about seeing experiments, let's say, as new sister chains pop up. So Dominic, why don't you tell us about how Worbli sister chain is adding and changing, and what's different between your chain and the mainnet?
So we have a different approach, I'd say, and it's a good example of how there might be some chains that'll be kind of in this competitive, right, driving innovation and driving new features and seeing which ones work, better or worse depending on the community that's involved. We're an example of a very specific use case, right? So we're fintech based, and it's about enterprise grade, meeting the global compliance standards. And so we're a good example of that. And I think that's, there's Ono that's doing its own chain for the social network, and they have specific reasons. Again, that's kind of a use case example. So there's a lot of different ways in which I think all of the various chains are going to contribute to one another. What we're bringing, I would say, is an example of how you can take some of the global regulatory environment and bring it to the blockchain. Can you do it at a user account level? Can you do it in a way that it's just kind of the chain's DNA to do so, make it a seamless experience? Right now, nobody loves AML KYC. We don't love it, but it's required. And we've all been doing it over the years in all of our various financial accounts. And why would you want to do it 5, 10, 15, 20 times? Every time there's data risk exposure, it's a pain in the ass. So on our chain, you'll do it once, and then the applications on the network will be able to query your account with your permission, and then you'll be able to release that data to the app, and everybody's happy. The apps have saved a substantial amount of time and money. They don't have to absorb the cost of AML KYC. They can typically have a lighter compliance environment. And in our case, the users only have to do it once. They don't have to go through it over and over and over again. And it improves the security, it improves the flow, and scaling blockchain, right? This entire event is around how do we get this beyond this room of a few hundred people, or even at the hackathon, those of us in EOS will think like, oh my God, look at all these people. There's so many people in the blockchain. And I was checking out one of Dan's early EOS videos, and I think it has like 60,000 views. Like my kids watch dumb stuff on YouTube that gets 50 million, right? I mean, this is Dan Larimer, someone that we all respect, who's a kind of an icon in our industry and a thought leader. And so it's early stages, and the reason for that at Worbli is we think it's too difficult. So we're trying to make it easier. We have the AML KYC. We're also building a user account that'll be very simple. We hope to have an account where when you're talking to those friends of yours that don't understand blockchain or wondering what you're doing at all these conferences or why you're on Telegram 23 hours a day, you can just say, hey, sign up here. Give some information, make a deposit to an insured wallet. Everything's safe and easy. It's a password experience, much like they're used to with Amazon or Google, and they can access blockchain. They can buy and sell cryptocurrencies. They can do just about anything they want to do. So that's really the big difference for what we're doing at Worbli.
Yeah, and where I see Worbli being this huge part of the ecosystem is as you know, there's this problem with on-ramping fiat into EOS. That's this missing step that's going to be huge for adoption, and I think that maybe you can speak to this. Part of what Worbli is doing is making an easier on-ramp so that fiat can come into the ecosystem, into Worbli, and then with inter-blockchain communication, when that happens, hopefully transfer very liquid into EOS main chain, into Telos, into all the different chains, and operate within small ecosystems, financial ecosystems. So it's kind of an on-ramping feature that should be big if it works out. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So yeah, we're all dealing with US dollars here. We wish that all of the various businesses and services that we use accepted digital currency. I think just about everyone here feels it's a superior form of money, but we're not there yet. So we feel like we need to take that integrated step. Let's start getting a flow back and forth between the two worlds. Let's make it easy. It'll not only benefit various EOS chains, and I think the first versions of IBC will certainly make it so that EOS chains are more efficient working with Worbli, but we're looking to all blockchain. Our user account will have the type of capabilities that a dApp from Ethereum could use fiat gateways on Worbli. So we're making it very universal. This is something that we feel passionate about. The other aspect to it is that by doing so, we're going to create access to capital and banking services for a lot of people around the world that don't have access to even traditional banks. And those groups of communities around the world, they're actually really poised to kind of skip a step. So maybe they won't have to go through all the nonsense we've all gone through with global multinational banks and their fees and their 3-week wire transfers around the world. And so yeah, that's one of our main goals. We're already talking to a bunch of different companies that want to bring various gateways. And to clarify that, it won't be like one. There's just going to be the gateway. It's going to be jurisdictional, so there'll be gateways in various countries around the world. We hope that there'll be competition to drive down those costs and to make it easier. But we absolutely feel that that's going to be one of the main ways in which we help grow mainnet and grow adoption for chains like Telos, EOS mainnet, and a lot of blockchains all around the world.
Well, let's talk about where we're at with the sister chain progress. I know that Telos, can you talk about Douglas, can you talk about where Telos is as far as launching and where that looks?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So Telos is very close to launch. We have a slightly different system. We looked at the idea of a date-based launch, and we thought that would lead us to maybe leave behind some of our promises that we had made. And so instead we set up a checklist-based launch, and we said, until we've done all of these things, we are not going to launch. And actually I think it's been very beneficial. We've got a lot of good feedback from the community. We're very close there. I believe there's 3 or 4 items still to go. They're all based around the governance. They're basically all based around this. They're waiting on the same voting system, which is our IPFS empowered voting system. We've made a lot of great strides there. In fact, we were able to show last night at the hackathon everybody our IPFS-based music-driven hack that kind of grew out of our learnings about IPFS. We're very close. I think our next vote is on the 20th. And not to make any predictions, but the as I always say, if you want to know when we're going to launch, go and look at telosfoundation.io/launch, see what that checklist is, and when it's all green, we will launch. I think that's the way to do it. But we're very excited. There's going to be a lot of really good things for everybody to use. Out of this longer process comes a lot of additional tools that people can take advantage of right away.
What do you think the best tool that Telos has kind of added that may be adopted by the main chain in the future? What do you think the kind of a good key difference is?
What I think they should actually adopt is our system of rotating BP. This is not sexy, right? It's just about resiliency, but I think that the rotating and testing BPs is really important, and removing BPs that are not actually producing. I worry sometimes about Chinese New Year and what happens when all the Chinese BP's employees go home for 10 days, and what resiliency issues might come up. I would, if I had the magic wand, I would probably implement that. They're very similar. Like our chains, the differences between all three of these chains are not really in what they can do. It's in where they focus, right? For Worbli is focusing on a very specific industry, so it can answer. I mean, not to speak for yours, but what I understand of it, it's like we're going to answer these problems, right? And because we're going to have this narrow focus on this, we are going to be able to address each of these things. Telos is a general purpose blockchain. Our differences are most likely probably going to be that we are going to be attractive because of our lower initial cost, right, of the token, which I assume is going to happen. We don't know. The fact that we have a smaller token supply means it's going to have those will have 3 times the resources. And then we have certain programs to help smaller groups like in the developing world get over the hump, such as the Good Grants and the Telos RAM Foundation grants, Telos Foundation RAM grants, that are going to try and basically onboard a lot of newer dApps that might otherwise have to stay on a gas-based system like Ethereum. As you probably all know, when on Ethereum and other gas-based systems, the users pay for the resources, right, in terms of gas. On DPoS, you have to stake your resources, which means that there's a high fee for anybody to come in to be able to, as a developer, right? The users don't pay that as much as the developers do up front. That's a pretty big bump for people to get over if you're just if you're a developing nation, or if you're a small developer group, or if you're a bunch of college students who just have a great idea. That is an impediment to adoption. And so I think probably one of the things that Telos is most likely to do is probably lower that impediment for adoption. So I think this is just my guess, but on Worbli we'll probably see a number of very exciting FinCEN and banking dApps deploying, right? EOS is probably going to see, probably 20 of those awesome cherry-picked great dApps. And I wouldn't be surprised if Telos has like 60 or 80 real small scrappy dApps that come on and use a good grant to stake all their resources for the first year, get half their RAM from a RAM grant, and come in and just throw a lot of stuff at the wall. And maybe not all of them will stick, but I think that a lot of surprising new technologies will come from there. I would love that if that was our identity.
The ecosystem, giving dApps the ability to start the kind of the startup dApps, somewhere to kind of incubate. That's big.
Yeah, and what that really does, right? Like I know early on there was a question of we've talked about the competition that makes everybody a little bit better, right? But the other side of the coin is there's a cooperation, right? So if this actually happens, if what we're trying to do with and what we're predicting happens with Telos does happen, that doesn't really what I just described is not us pulling a lot of dApps from EOS. It might pull a certain amount of dApps from EOS who were planning to implement on EOS and then discovered the realities of the deployment costs and had to scramble and do something different. But I really think what's likely to happen is a lot of dApps who are going to deploy on Ethereum or Tron or some other gas-based system right? Because they were just they could not get over the cost of the initial resource costs. They can come into the EOSIO system and come in and build it. I think that's really this is the like I don't want to. This is like the minor leagues. This is like the trader league. I don't want to like say that Telos is minor league, but what it is, it's the feeder, it's the on-ramp to EOSIO system for a lot of people that would otherwise still be stuck on Ethereum. And frankly, it's 2018. It's almost 2019. Nobody needs to do a new Ethereum dApp. Do not do it. It's not. It's do not deploy on Ethereum. Come on, let's have some cheap chains like Telos. And frankly, I mean, as Julius Caesar said, after me the deluge. Once Telos launches and there's all that code there in the Telos branch, I think there'll be a lot of experiments coming off of that, and probably even cheaper ones to come onto. And I think that might be great, right? Frankly, I think 6 months from now, I'd be curious what you guys think. But I think 6 months after Telos launches, I would be surprised if there are 25 different EOSIO experimental chains. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the minor leagues is a great analogy. It's actually going to use it, but I didn't want to say it before.
It's okay.
But yeah, I think
a lot of great
example.
Players come out of the minor leagues.
Absolutely.
Let's say at on-ramp. I think there's a little bit of a negative connotation there, but whatever. But who cares? Whatever. We're not proud.
And the other cool thing is with that thought of these basically testing out newer dApps, there's all the sister chains that pop up are going to make EOS so resilient because we can try new ideas. As sister chains pop up and they have a specific use case, like Worbli is doing fintech type of things, and Telos is incubating dApps. All these sister chains pop up, and if they break, it's not going to crush EOS. The more of them that pop up and the more that try stuff, it won't crush EOS. It makes it very resilient because we're able to move nimbly and try things and see what happens. So that's the beauty of sister chains. As we kind of get some final thoughts here, we want to hear from Worbli. I want to know where you guys are at, what's next, and just go ahead.
Yeah, so the chain went live on November 1st. We have 32 block producers. We have 21 active, and we have actually we have 33. Yeah, so we have 12 reserves. The user account for the share drop will hit on the 21st. I saw it today, so we're definitely going to go live with that. It's looking really good. And after that, we're just going to we have 37 different businesses in our business development pipeline right now that we're expecting to launch within the next 6 months. We hope to add to that. We just hired a director of business development a month ago, so he's doing really great, Sean Anderson. And we're just going to be iterating on the user account. We have some world-class designers in UI and UX, and we want to make this the easiest to use account for non-blockchain people. We really expect that to be our target customer profile in 2019. We're talking to companies that can bring on anywhere from a few 100,000 to a few million users. And because we can give free accounts, and because we can expand RAM anytime we want, and because we're addressing the latency issue, all of our block producers are fixed, so they're actually going to create a schedule, and that's going to be one of the innovations that we can bring. We really need to be enterprise grade for the type of companies we're talking to, and we don't want to just say that. That's a term. It sounds cool. I can sell that in a boardroom, but we try to pride ourselves on being authentic in the terms we use around our chain. So we have a penetration testing firm we've partnered with. We've hired Igor from EOS Rio, Michael Yates from EOS DAC, two of the considered to be the highest level security folks in the EOS ecosystem. They're doing additional testing for us. We're going to have enterprise APIs that'll be dedicated for these businesses so that they can benefit from faster speeds and reliability. It's all about reliability, security. We have insurance coming. I'll say within 30 days, we'll see a beta of our risk transfer application. And that's going to allow for insurance policies for anything for general liability for block producers to insurance for the user wallets. We're going to be implementing a multi-currency wallet in the user account. You'll have an option to use other wallets if you want to, but we're going to make this a base available feature. and that will have insurance for, right now, we're hoping to get at least up to $10,000 in digital assets that you can hold in your wallet that's insured and expand on that over time. We have a trading platform beta that'll launch hopefully before the end of the month, on the heels of the portal launch on the 21st, but if not, by the end of the year. And then we're going to start revealing more information about Gamma. A little bit about Gamma Bank, because it's not really going to be a bank, which is, it's kind of neat the way it's evolved. It's going to allow users to basically build a custom bank. You're going to get to pick and choose the features of a bank that you want, and you're going to get to pick and choose the businesses that you want to work with. But it'll be a unified, seamless, single sign-on, insured experience, so that it's, custom, It's all about customization. Blockchain allows that, and we definitely want to facilitate that.
As you guys know, I keep saying it, but sister chains are something I'm most excited about in EOS. I think it's huge. I appreciate your time, Dominic, talking about Worbli. So
Thank you.
Look into Worbli. Appreciate your time, Douglas, talking about Telos. So check out Telos. And
Thanks very much.
Yeah, and if you guys have any 10 seconds of closing thoughts here, go ahead and say goodbye to our beautiful EOS friends here.
All right, thanks everybody for coming here. It's been a great chance to meet a lot of people who are fantastic. I encourage you to check out telosfoundation.io. Look at some of the programs we have here for dApp developers. Look at the good grants. You can see that at goodblock.io. And if you have a dApp that is you are excited about exploring the EOSIO space, I hope you'll check out Telos. It's going to be probably the most cost-efficient way to deploy anywhere in EOSIO, and we have really great tech support or technical developers who can help you get that going. Thanks.
Yeah, I really appreciate Investing with a Difference for putting this together, and it's been a great few days out here with everybody, a lot of the same faces. Yeah, check us out. It's worbli.io, worbli.io. Get your share drop on the 21st. I'm assuming most people here are EOS token holders, at least prior to September 7th. And if you definitely have any interest in development, we have a lot of funding, resources, consulting. We're basically set it up so that if you have an idea, we can help you deploy it. And our goal is to be able to bring idea to deployment in 6 months, so that make it really simple for developers. So check us out, and hope to see everybody hitting the portal on the 21st and testing the resiliency.